Yeah, good evening, Theresa. Thank you for being with us here for this interview. We'll be looking at your first full-length documentary, I believe, Ouaga Girls, following the interview. Could you tell us a little bit how that came about?
Yes, I did a previous film in Senegal, a film called Taxi Sister, about a woman that drives taxi in Dakar. And she was one of 5 women that drove taxis among 5,000 men. And I followed her in her everyday life. And I did a short film about her as a taxi driver and why she did the choices that she did. Because a lot of people had opinions about her work and drove into her and tried to prevent her from doing her work, and had opinions about her being a woman and driving a cab, while others were applauding on the streets and encouraging her. So it was really an active choice for her to be a taxi driver, and it had a lot of consequences. So I followed her in her everyday life, trying to understand how it was to that situation and be a pioneer in her work that she was. So when I did Ouaga Girls, I was visiting my family Burkina. My father is from Burkina Faso, and my mother is Swedish. So I grew up between Burkina Faso and Sweden.
Right.
And my family, I have a very big family in Burkina Faso.
Okay.
And right now my parents are living there most of the time as well. So I was there, and someone had seen Taxi Sister, the film. So they told me, did you know that there's a car mechanic school for girls in Ouaga? And I thought it sounded interesting. But at the same time, I was not really, I'm like, it's not the car issue I'm not necessarily interested in. But I'm going to go there and look. And I found it interesting because it was so different from Taxi Sister. Because Taxi Sister was about a woman who really chose to go with this thing, to be a pioneer, to make also the choice as a grown-up. While the girls in Ouaga Girls that you're going to see, they didn't necessarily, they ended up between chairs in society, and it's a school that they haven't necessarily decided to become pioneers. So they're more like teenagers, very different.
Okay. I mean, it's a very visually striking film. You get the girls with their blue overalls, and as a visual artist, is that something that you wanted to stress as well?
Yeah, definitely. I worked very closely to who's the photographer. We went to film school at the same time, and then we kept working with each other throughout the years. And we have a lot of talks about how to film, what kind of language to use. But also in each scene and in each space, we collaborate when it comes to the picture. Okay. A lot. And the music that you hear is actually my father's music.
Really? Okay.
Because he's an old Burkina Faso musician.
Right. Okay. I mean, the music is very striking as well. I mean, this is one of the things. Burkina Faso is a country which is full of culture. It's incredible music and art, and one of the key African countries in African cinema. But it's also huge. It's also hugely unstable. We've had 2 coups in the last few years. What is it actually like working in that sort of atmosphere?
I mean, Burkina Faso, when I grew up, it was just very calm. For a lot of years, 27 years, there was a lot of corruption and things going on. But in the actual country, it was very, very calm. There hasn't been any big wars for a long time. So this is the last. Actually, when I was filming Ouaga Girls, this is exactly in the time of change for the country as well. Yeah. When the president, after 27 years, was there were demonstrations, and he left the power, and there was this 1 year of transition. when you didn't know who would be the next leader. And all of this was happening while we were filming Ouaga Girls. For me, I was not thinking about like how much should I let the politics come into the film.
Yeah.
And I chose to stay with the girls, and it's more like a backdrop. It's something happening around them. It's something you hear in the radio. It's something they look at on TV. It's happening in their lives, but they are still teenage girls with their problems, and everyday joys as well.
How does it feel for you? I mean, you live in one of the most advanced societies in the world, and yet you've got very strong links to one of the poorest societies in the world. Do you have to adjust every time when you go to Burkina Faso or when you come back to Sweden?
No, I've always been moving back and forth between Burkina Faso and Sweden. So very natural to move between environments. But of course, I'm as a documentary filmmaker or as an artist, I'm always thinking about the power of having the camera as well.
Yeah.
And how to create that trust with the people that you film. So for me, it was very important that they all saw the films that I had done previously, so they trust me also as an artist, but also that they could choose whether they wanted to be in the film or not. Right. And I spent a lot of time doing research and getting to know them as well. I didn't just come with a finished script. It was really like a film that we did together throughout the years. Right. And I also promised them that I wasn't going to show the film until after their graduation. So they didn't have to worry about the teachers finding out about anything. Okay.
Will you be going back anytime soon? What projects are you working on now?
I'm actually working on I'm doing a script right now in a fiction film, but I'm also working on a short film between my son, who's 7 years old, and my father, who's 70 years old, and the transmission of history but also lacking the common language. Okay. So it's really about that transition.
Right. Look forward to seeing that. Thank you very much, Theresa. Does anyone have any questions here?
Oui, peut-être la question en français que je voulais vous poser tout à l'heure, vous avez un peu déjà répondu, c'est à propos des filles, de la suite des filles, le parcours. Est-ce que vous avez quelque chose de plus à dire là-dessus? Peut-être un peu plus, le film va se passer en version originale en français, pour les élèves de français, un peu plus sur les filles, peut-être, pour nos élèves.
Oui, non, mais il y a beaucoup qui s'est passé après le film, parce qu'ils étaient tellement jeunes quand je filmais, en plus, et maintenant, il y a plusieurs qui ont des enfants, 2 enfants même après, et à peu près un peu plus qu'une moitié de la classe, un peu plus que la moitié de la classe travaille avec les voitures ou le patinage. Mais ils sont toujours des bons amis et ils se voient parfois. Et chaque fois que je suis là, on se voit tous ensemble et on rigole, tout le monde va bien. Mais Chantal, que vous allez voir, qui est une des filles qu'on connaît le plus après le film, sa mère est morte après qu'on a filmé. Dans le film, vous allez voir qu'elle parle de sa mère qui habitait à Togo, qu'elle voulait voir, qu'elle n'a pas vu, qu'elle a laissé comme une. Mais après le film, elle est allée là-bas, elle a montré juste avant qu'elle ait filmé. Donc, ça c'est facile. Merci.
Okay, Theresa, thank you very much. We'll leave it there, and good luck.
Yeah.
And we'll watch the film now. I'm looking forward to it. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thanks.